Okay, so friends, today is our which class? TA?
Third.
Third.
Third class.
Third class.
Yes.
Third.
Third class?
Yes, ma'am. March 3rd. Third month, third
Correct.
class.
So today we start with ego state analysis. I've just sent the sheets on the WhatsApp. The first sheet, and I'm going to repeat it. The first sheet is ego state analysis sheet 1. Ego state analysis sheet 1, in which you have 8 statements. Each statement has 4 choices. You have to mark, out of 4, you will mark any 2 choices. The first will be the one that is closest to you. Like that's the only way that you will respond or react, or one of the most dominant way of reaction. The second will be the second choice. So for every statement, you have 4 choices, A, B, C, D. For every statement, you will mark out of 4. You will mark 2 out of 4. You will mark 2 out of 4. Okay. The third sheet is where you will put the scores. The third sheet is where you will put the scores. Everybody knows the third sheet that is there. Open it, please. So there is CP, RP, NP, A, FC, HC, DC. These are all the short forms. CP is for critical parent. RP is for rebellious parent. NP is for nurturing parent. A is for adult. FC is for free child. HC is for helpless child. And DC is for defensive child. Okay. All this we will study in time to come. Put the scores here. If in CP, if you have marked B, then that score, whatever you have written, 2 or 1, will go in the RP column, statement 1. If you have marked C, that score will go in the NP column. If you have marked A, the score will go in the D, in the A column. अगर आपने D mark किया है तो. FC, HC and DC, these are not the ego states for statement 1. Similarly, for statement 2, CP, the statement does not respond to CP, but it does go to RP. So there is A, there is B, there is C, and there is D for FC. The other ego states are not to be included. It's very simple. If you can print this or on your laptop, convert it to Word and do it. Now, once you do this, then the fourth one, the egogram. Transfer the scores on the egogram. So it's a bar chart. As you transfer the scores in the bar chart, you will see which ego state is dominant and which ego state is not dominant. Or how your personality seems to be according to the ego state analysis. Any questions for this? There are 2 bar charts given here. Why? The first bar chart you fill, okay? And the second bar chart, you give it to somebody who knows you. Now, they do not know your scores. This is where the interesting part comes, okay? You have filled the first bar chart according to the scores you have got. Now, the second bar chart, you will just give somebody and you will explain to that person about what is CP, what is A, what is FC, correct? And that person, according to his understanding, will give you the scores of the second bar chart. Correct? So somebody who knows you, you may have your defensive child pretty low, but maybe your husband or father or mother may feel the defensive child high. So how do you view yourself according to your scores, and how do people view you? Will there be a change?
Loads.
Yes. Most
Yes,
likely.
Most likely there will be a change.
Yeah.
So people view you in a certain way, you view yourself in a certain way, and that is where the discrepancy or the disparity comes. Once you understand the disparity or the discrepancy, then maybe the next session that we do on transactions will make sense to you. Okay, how are you transacting? You are transacting from the adult. But it is possible that your friend or whoever has filled that form has put your adult pretty low. So that person's perception of you is very different. So, though you are transacting from the adult ego state, the opposite person doesn't think you have an adult ego. So, that person's transaction with your adult could be from a CP, trying to teach you a lesson, thinking you are an AC, adapted child. But in effect, you seem to be more adult to yourself, but not to others. So, this is going to be a challenging task. First, explaining to the opposite person what all this means. And second, getting this person to fill your egogram. Okay. So, this will also help you whether you are able to understand and explain these terminologies easily to somebody else. And in effect, you are also going to help the opposite person to understand things better. Correct?
And will this also not be a reflection of them, whoever is filling this? Because different people will see me differently based on who they are also.
Absolutely right. The way they are perceiving you, that is why, Hina, all the transactions that we have with people are very different, no? In the same situation, somebody may see you as an adult. In the same situation, somebody may see you differently. And that is why your transactions also need to be flexible. But in effect, are we flexible? Generally, we transact in one particular way only. That is why in Rome, you be like a Roman, that phrase is so true. If I'm talking to somebody who has no idea of, let us say, Vedanta, I'm just breaking my head against a wall, no?
Yeah.
You don't give knowledge to everybody, right? You give knowledge to somebody who's prepared for it. But people have this idea, oh, I am this, so I should be like this everywhere. Authenticity is good, but you also have to have you have to understand where to be what. In that situation, also, you can be authentic enough. Like when you go to a party, you know you are in a party, you are trying to behave it, you will behave in an authentic manner in a party situation. You're not going to sit separately from the crowd, no? Because you're not a snob, but you will appear like a snob. So these are very thin lines. Okay. So you give it to somebody, who can give you some insight into yourself. And that will also give you an idea how this person views you. Would it not benefit you?
Give it to my son, who is 29 years old,
Why not? Give it to him. Because
or my friend.
anybody. You can give it to anybody from whom you want some insight about yourself. Right? Like with whom, let us say you're not having a great equation and you want to better the transactions with that person. It's a great idea to give it to that person, no? Because then you can work upon your transactions with that person, correct? So this has to be done. Huh? We will be discussing this over WhatsApp. Okay, this is not for today, but this is something that you will have to do because this is going to give you great insights into yourself. Okay, now for today. So let us now work on today. Okay, now we have finished parent ego state, correct? Adult ego state and child ego state. Now I'm showing you a list here. And you have to identify the ego states. Quick. Being affectionate. What is this ego state? Being affectionate.
Parent.
Which parent?
Nurturing parent.
Nurturing parent, okay. Studying files.
Adult.
Adult. Agreeing without questioning.
Adult.
Pleasing person, child.
Agreeing without questioning.
Adapted child.
Adapted child. Very good. Listening to a problem.
Adult.
Forcing a situation.
Controlling parent.
Very good.
Controlling parent.
Very nice. Giving information.
Adult.
Right?
Parent
Guiding children.
Nurturing parent.
Giving information. That would be adult. Okay? Giving information could be adult. That means a parent, when that parent gets into the giving information mode, she is switching from NP to A.
Okay.
Then guiding children.
Nurturing parent.
Nurturing parent.
Yes. Suggesting solutions.
Adult.
Nurturing parent.
Laughing at a joke.
Pre-child.
Very good. How can I be wrong?
Critical parent.
Parent.
Critical
Yes.
parent.
This is the third time you are late.
Controlling parent.
Controlling parent.
It depends now again on the tone of the voice,
Yeah.
right? If it is very neutral, this is the third time you are late. It could be adult also.
Adult also.
I like your report.
Nurturing parent.
Nurturing parent.
Correct. Scolding others.
Controlling.
Adult.
No, scolding others would be CP.
Critical.
Critical parent.
Critical parent. Controlling and critical, same it is. Now you have to first identify. Now you all are clear about ego states.
Yes.
So now let us move to the next one. This is
Ma'am, Ma'am, I'm not clear. Ma'am, I'm
Good.
not clear regarding adapted child and a free child.
Adapted child is a situation is there and you are being scolded. So what is you can have many responses. You can have a rebellious child response. Just run into the room. You may stand there and put your head down in shame. That will be an AC response. Or you may just say, Mama, please don't do that. No, Mama, I love you. FC response. So the AC, the adapted child, is somebody who adapts to the situation in a very sheepish manner. Like, puts the head down or starts fiddling with the hands, or the face goes red but is not able to run away from the situation. The way you adapted when you were a young child, when somebody scolded you, how did you adapt when somebody scolded you, teacher or parent or somebody, Shalina?
Ma'am, I used to start crying.
Correct.
Dad.
Right.
The adapted child.
So that is a adapted child response, AC response, because the adapted child is helpless, cannot do much. Got it? So that's the adaptive response. Good.
And the other one you said, Mom, when the child will be saying, Mama, I love you, instead of crying.
Child response, natural response.
Natural, okay.
Yeah. But now that we are moving ahead, we will see how that response can also be manipulated. I love you, Mama, can also be a manipulated. Now we'll go to that, okay, a little deeper. So this is, anyway. Now
Ma'am, just a query.
Surekha.
Whether critical parent, yeah, ma'am. Whether critical parent and controlling parent, they are same term.
Same. There are two terms for the same
Okay.
ego state. Okay, now let us look at the division of the child ego state. Now, this is very important, okay? I just want to ask a question. When are there people here who have seen the video that we put on YouTube? Anybody here who's looking at TA through the videos on YouTube? Anybody? Have you all just checked whether...
Yeah, ma'am.
So is it
Yeah,
okay,
YouTube, I
right?
did not.
No. So are the slides and all you're able to see?
Okay, when I'm trying to
no.
see this thing in the
Yes,
YouTube,
ma'am. First one was
I
okay.
could not.
मैम उसके लिए आपको ये जो साइड वाला व्यू है ना,
हाँ.
इसमें इफ यू जस्ट सेलेक्ट ओनली योर्स वन, स्पीकर वन, तब तो ठीक है, अदरवाइज वो स्पीकर के ऊपर आती है।
तो मैं कैसे सिलेक्ट करूँ अपना स्पॉटलाइट फॉर नो?
नो, नहीं नहीं नहीं, आपका जो व्यू है ना, आपके व्यू में साइड में सब लोग दिख रहे हैं या आप अकेले दिख रहे हो?
काफी लोग, छह लोग दिख रहे हैं।
हाँ, तो आप उसको सिंगल कर दीजिए।
कैसे करूं?
First one. Click the first one.
व्यू में
Just this
No,
one.
click. No, there are 4 options. Click the first option.
साइड बाय साइड स्पीकर,
साइड बाय साइड स्पीकर मेरा नहीं आता है।
व्यू में स्पीकर व्यू, स्पीकर व्यू।
स्पीकर व्यू।
मैम ऊपर 4 options है.
हाँ,
One dash, one square.
हाँ,
Ma'am,
There are 2 and then there is a grid. So
Correct.
click the first one. Click the first one.
The
Okay.
square
हो
one.
गया, चलो।
First.
आप अकेले दिख रहे हो
मुझे आई एम नॉट एबल टू सी माई सेल्फ।
तो क्या दिख रहा है?
आई एम नॉट एबल टू सी, मतलब कोई नहीं दिख रहा।
हाँ,
तो
good.
जैसा आपको दिख, पर आप तो
That's
दिखने
fine.
चाहिए ना।
शकुंतला जी, आप फर्स्ट वाला क्लिक करो, so you will only see ma'am.
नहीं, मेरे को कोई दिक्कत नहीं है, मैं तो रिकॉर्डिंग के
Your
लिए।
record.
Yeah, so ma'am is not seeing anything. She's seeing the main slide only.
नहीं, बट देन मैम यू
मैम
डू
की
वन
फोटो
थिंग,
तो आनी
दूसरा
एक
वाला
चीज हो
सिलेक्ट
सकती
कीजिए।
है, if all of you hide your view, then only I will be seen.
No, ma'am.
नहीं,
Only when you select it, because the recording is happening from your side,
योर साइड।
हाँ,
you will have to select the view में 2 वाला बार एक बार कर दीजिए।
2 वाला बार
इसमें आप
सेकंड।
देखोगे सिर्फ। हाँ, कैन यू सी योरसेल्फ नाउ?
I can see 5 people.
अच्छा, ऐसा प्रोबेबली आपका
If I
अपडेट
do
नहीं।
one, no, see, if I do one,
हाँ
I will see the person like I am seeing you.
हाँ, बट मैं देन यू पिन योरसेल्फ देन।
Select
यस
yourself.
मैम, पिन कर लो अपने आप को।
ऐसे कहाँ से करूँ पिन?
हाँ, आप जब पार्टिसिपेंट्स में
आपके
जाएंगे।
नाम के राइट क्लिक करके पिन कर
There
दो।
are 3 dots, ma'am. There are three dots in your frame on
Yes, yes.
upper hand. 3 small dots. There
Pin.
you can click and pin yourself.
Okay, I pinned myself.
Now
अब
can you
आप
see
और
yourself?
स्लाइड्स दिख
Okay,
रहे हैं।
now good. Now only I am being seen. चलो,
यस, तो
Done.
यही रिकॉर्ड होगा।
all right, चलो, हो गया ना। Okay, now let us move to the child ego state. Now you have to pay attention. Okay, I hope you have a notebook, pen, everything to be understood. Now the child, now we are not focusing on the parent or the adult ego state. We are now looking at the child ego state because that is the most important ego state which causes lot of problems in people's lives. Now the child ego state, friends, can you see the adapted child is written here AC. Now, AC is further divided into compliant child and rebellious child. AC is further divided into compliant child and rebellious child. Now, who is a compliant child? Because I told you today we are doing the functional ego states. Structure we know, AC, FC. But now AC, adapted child, is further divided into compliant and rebellious. So who's a compliant child? Somebody who says, yes, mama, okay, mama, who doesn't say no, pleases others. That becomes a compliant child. A rebellious child says, no, I'm not going to do it. Whatever you do, I'm not going to say yes to you. I'm going to run away. I'm going to throw things around. I want my way or highway becomes the rebellious child. And the compliant child says, Mama, whatever you say, I'm willing to do. Okay, so the adapted child is divided into CC, that is compliant child, RC, that is rebellious child. Further, now the adult in the child, this is the child ego state. Remember, every ego state is divided further into 3. So the child ego state is divided. ऊपर क्या होगा? E, A, C. So now, child ke andar, there is a P which is called the little professor. The manipulative side of us when we are small. Papa ne chocolate nahi diya, I run to mummy. Mummy ne chocolate nahi diya, I run to granny. Granny ne chocolate nahi diya, I run to my didi. But I want the chocolate. So the rebellious child can become the little professor who gets his way. If you are getting your way, okay, you become the little professor. Remember that little ad of Cadbury where this little child wanted the chocolate and nobody gave it to him, and he said, "मैं तो जा रहा हूँ, घर छोड़कर जा रहा हूँ." And he takes his little bag and goes to the station or wherever the bus stop, and then the grandmother or somebody comes and says, "अरे चलो बेटा, आज तो हमने घर पे ये सब बनाया हुआ है." And then he comes home and then they give chocolate. You know, that little ad. That is a typical little professor behavior. ओके, बाय हुक और बाय क्रूक. छोटे बच्चे जब इस तरह का बिहेवियर करते हैं, दे आर एक्चुअली यूटिलाइजिंग द लिटिल प्रोफेसर इन देम. ओके, एंड देन यू हैव द नेचुरल और द फ्री चाइल्ड. नाउ लेट अस अंडरस्टैंड दिस फर्दर इन कॉन्टेक्स्ट ऑफ द PAC मॉडल. ओके, now let us go ahead to understand the PAC model. Now these are what we are looking at is the functional model. Just going to put this down.
Sorry, ma'am. Defensive child and rebellious child is the same?
Defensive child and the rebellious child will be similar.
Okay.
Once you fill the form, you'll have an idea very quickly. Okay.
So, ma'am,
Names have been given. You fill the form. When you fill the form, I'll tell you. Don't confuse now. Okay. Now look at the functional model of PAC. The CP, this critical parent, is further divided into two parts, father and mother. The nurturing parent is also further divided into father and mother. The adapted child is made up of CC and RC, also which can be negative and positive, and also the FC, which can be negative and positive. The little professor is not negative or positive. Okay. Now, all this makes our personality. When I show you the next picture, you will have an idea. Just bear with me, okay? Now, let me just, okay. Now, this is what you have to understand. The parent, the P2, is divided further into, see what is written. There are many PAC, 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 PAC. One is the father, one is the mother, one is the grandfather, one is the grandmother. So many influences we have in our life. We have been conditioned by so many people in our lives, correct? It's not only P. There are many P's, many A's in the P, and many C's in the P. We'll understand all this. Okay? All this influences me. That means my father has a P from his father. He also has an A from his father. He also has a C from his father. Yes or not? My grandfather, let us say, if my grandfather, when I spent time with him, he told me that my parents used to sit with me and talk to me, and my parents were very caring and affectionate and all, and they were like this, they were like that. All that information that came to me was from his P. He also told me how his father helped him to understand his work better. His father's A influenced my grandfather's A. And when my grandfather spoke to me from his A, my A would have got influenced also. Like information and knowledge that we keep carrying from generations comes from the A of the parent. Correct? Then the C in my grandfather is coming from his father. See how his father responded, what he did about things. So my parent, my P, this P of mine has all these influences. The introjected parents and parent figures, each with his or her own PAC, ego states. You can identify how many parent ego states we have got. Each of them will influence me. Similarly, the adult is not subdivided, but I'll take your questions. The adult of my grandfather would influence the adult in me. Similarly, the P in the child, the magical parent, adult in the child, the little professor, and child in the child, the somatic child. I'm explaining each one of them, each one of these ego states. Please hold on, because if you ask me a question, you will confuse everybody. Now let's go to the P. Once you understand all this, it will become easier for you. Now let us look at the P, the P3. P3, A3, C3 of my father, P3, A3, C3 of my mother, P3, A3, C3 of my grandfather, and so on. There could be many, multiple. Now, what is the P3? P3, the slogans and commands from my parents are stored in my P3. P3 is a storehouse of messages from my family, community, passed down from generations. This is as if the ancestors are acting in a remote way, the cavemen messages. So P3 is a storehouse of messages that I am carrying from my family, from my community, passed down from generations. My grandfather said to me, unless you work hard, you cannot be successful. This slogan has come from his father, and to him from his father, from him from his father. So it's like a caveman messages. All the nichod of all maybe civilizations, generations are all stored in our P3. Slogans and commands are in my P3. Now, I want you all to tell me any slogan and command that you think has come to you from your parents or grandparents or great grandparents or teachers. Come on. So you understand. Slogan and commands.
Can I?
You may not believe it, but it is there. बोलो.
Can I?
हाँ?
मैं बताऊं मैम?
हाँ बोलो बोलो.
Like my mom always says कि हम लोग को 7 बजे के बाद लड़कियों को घर के बाहर नहीं जाना चाहिए. 7 बजे means that's the last.
Very good.
And this was coming from the families.
Yes, that is the slogan. Correct. Command.
Yeah.
Yes, Kruti.
My grandmother would always say, keep smiling so that everybody likes you. And that kind of incorporated this whole people-pleasing thing in all of us.
Correct.
No boundaries.
That is a slogan. Urvi?
पैसे झाड़ पे नहीं उगते.
Correct. That's a slogan. That's a slogan. All these are slogans coming from generations. This is coming from your P3. It's your parent, your P, your parent ego state, the parent in the parent. Understood? Parent in the parent. That becomes the slogan and command. Now let's go to A3. What is A3 in the parent? The collection of statements about reality which a person has heard from parents and copied them. They could also be misinterpretations of reality which maybe were once factually true. Okay, factually true. Once upon a time, they were factually true. Any collection of statements about reality which you have heard from your parents, copied them. They could also be misinterpretations of reality, which maybe were once factually true. Shadi karni chahiye. बेटे हमारे घर में सभी लोग शादी करते हैं, factually true, and it is about the family and its kind of reality. It's a factual statement. It may have been true once upon a time that shadi karke you can be happy, but today if you talk to youngsters they say no, that's not true. Once it was true, but today it may not be true. Kruti.
Yeah, the same thing that you are settled only when you get married and have children.
Correct. So that was true once upon a time. The factual statement. Okay. But today, maybe it is not factually true. Maybe the reality itself seems to have changed. The certain statements that we have heard from our parents, copied them also. And we did get married. Okay. But they somehow are not somehow seeming true. Yes, Renuka? Ranika, sorry.
मैम थिंग्स लाइक हम तो 3-3 घंटे चल के स्कूल जाते थे.
हाँ, factually true. Okay, but it is not possible today. Okay, these are A3 statements which are factually true. At one time, in reality, yes, they were true, but maybe it is not true today. Today, you can't walk to school.
Ma'am, even this statement can come, okay, when you will become a mother, you will come to know.
What do people think? You think this is a statement? When you become a mother, you will come to know. This is like a message that is passed down from generations. Everybody seems to be saying this.
That's also a fact, actually, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, when you become a mother, no, but this is being said.
Eventually, we'll know.
Yeah, this is being said from a very CP perspective.
Okay.
This statement is being made not factually, like from a adult perspective, but it is more like tum dekhna. You know, it's more like a very critical parent telling you that you will come to know one day what happens to you.
So it is a slogan or a command?
It is CP, yeah, it's
P3, no? P3 statement?
Correct. It is more like a command. Okay, ऐसा होगा तेरे साथ. That
Okay.
Yeah, so
it's like a it's sounding to me like a shapa. You're giving a shapa. Oh yeah, you're making me suffer. You suffer.
You suffer now.
Yeah, it sounds something like that.
So it's more like a P3, more like a P3 than an A3 statement. Na? Then we have a C3. What is a C3? Now pay attention. Our parents each had a child ego state. Recall your parent behaving as a child when you were a child. You learn this behavior from their child ego state. Again, our parents had a child ego state, yes or no? Yes. Now recall your parent behaving as a child when you were a child.
Yes.
Okay. Do you recall your parent behaving as a child when you were a child?
Yes.
मैम गुस्से में बात नहीं करना. Going silent.
Correct. Sulking.
Okay.
This you remember as a child, your parent behaving as a child. Correct? Anything else that you all remember less than the age of 6 that your parent was behaving like a child?
Playing video games.
Playing video games, correct, yeah.
Ma'am, asking for little bit of bhujia at the end when the doctor has said no.
Very nice. That's right. Very good. So
Yeah.
Anybody else? Go on.
Yes, my mom was like a child. Every Saturday she wanted to go for a movie. Every Saturday, like by hook or by crook.
Correct, Shalina. So
my dad would get upset when he would not get the attention, and I see the same thing in me.
Yeah. So this is your perception of your child in the father when you were a child. Now you remember this.
Yeah.
It could have influenced you also. So this is how the parent is. Okay, now you understood P3, A3, C3. It's all about the parent and his behavior influencing you. Got it? Now let us go to the A3. This is a second order structure. In my P2, I have stored the message, look right and left and right again, and then cross the road. Now, as an adult, I have reviewed this and stored it in my A3 as being true. So, in my P2, okay, that P3, A3, C3 jo tha na, that is called P2. That whole ego state is called P2. So in my P2, I have stored some messages like this one. Look right, left, and right again across the road. Now, as an adult, I have reviewed this and said, hey, this message is perfect. I must follow it. It is going to help me. It is going to be put inside my guidebook. मुझे ये फॉलो करना चाहिए, मेरी गाइड बुक में लिखा जाएगा, क्योंकि ये ऐसी चीज है जो मुझे मदद करेगी. सो इसको मैंने P2 से निकाल के A3 में डाल दिया. What will you do in a crowded bus when someone is elbowing you? Tell me. Let us see if you have transferred the message from P2 to A3. What will you do in a crowded bus when someone is elbowing you? क्या करोगे?
मैम उसको बोलेंगे
Move to your side.
साइड में हो जाओ.
Move to your side.
Okay. और
Move to side.
और कोई response?
Behave yourself.
Behave yourself. Yes, behave yourself. That's good. Anything else?
Or we can tell them, like, we can take a look at them and say, like, why are you elbowing me?
What is the reason? Any problem? Yeah, any problem? Why you elbowing?
I mean, I don't know if this is done on a purpose. We should look at them.
Yeah. Can
Okay, my friend suggested to like hit on their foot who is doing it, like with the
Ma'am, I
back
want
of
to
your
elbow back.
Elbow back.
I will just stare very hard at him.
But then also they continue to like उसका
दिक्कत है क्या?
अपने शू से उनको ऐसे करके उनके पैर में ऐसे करके कर दो तो अब उनको स्टॉप कर देगा, मूव हो जाएगा.
Now see, now whatever everybody has said, has this message been told to you by your P3?
No.
Has this message that you are telling me been told to you by your P3?
No.
Yeah. Then it is not coming from P2 to, it's not being transferred from parent to adult. If the message is being transferred from P to A, then it becomes an A3 message.
Excuse me, Dr. Trupti. What is P2? Can you just explain again?
So this what we just showed you, na? This P2.
Yeah, this whole is okay.
I'll just show you here. This is P2.
Okay,
In
okay,
P2 we have P3, A3, all this.
Okay. Thank you.
So now,
so ma'am, the P2 message would be, if somebody is elbowing you, just keep quiet and be patient, okay?
Correct. So if that is the message you have got, and now you are in a situation where somebody is elbowing you, and you remember, that
So
your
I would
parents
just
said,
politely say, excuse me.
Correct. So now you will remember what mummy told me, and you think that is, you review it, that yes, what mummy said seems to be right. I've stored this message and I act upon it.
Right.
That becomes my A3. That's the storehouse of my A3.
Right.
That's the storehouse of my A3.
Ma'am, I want to discuss this. Like, I had a similar situation in a train, somebody elbowing. So my husband's response was P2 response. And my response was, why don't you say something?
Why don't you say something? So this was your response. Your parent, your husband would not give that response.
No, he was into P2 response. He was like polite and nothing. And I was, why don't you say something like that?
So what was that response coming from which particular ego state?
For my husband, it was a P2 response.
Correct. And for you?
P2, so it was an A3 response. And from me, it was more of a adult response.
Adult.
Correct. So it was your own adult response after reviewing many things.
Yeah.
Right.
Or from your own growth.
Yes.
What have you learned from your life, and then that can also go in the A response, no? In the A3 response, okay?
Adult, or it's a P3 response, like being a
Hello.
critical parent types. This is not an adult response, no?
What?
This is what ki, shouting at someone agar aisa kuch ho. This is not an adult
shouting, but at least saying
Shout.
something,
Yeah,
you know.
Shout.
saying
What she
saying something
says.
rude,
Like,
maybe.
don't stand so close, something like that, you know.
Yeah, if you're being affirmative, that's
Some kind of action or solution.
Assertiveness, no? What Shalini is saying is, she wanted to be assertive rather than taking a P2 response.
But if someone's shouting, that will be P3 then, right?
That is if the father had said to you, or he had spoken to somebody and said, ऐसा जब होता है तो मैं तो चिल्लाता हूँ. अब जब तुम भी उस स्थिति में है तो तुम भी चिल्ला रही हो, ये याद करके कि पापा ने ऐसा बोला था. तो तुमने जब, if you have reviewed it like that and stored it in your A, then you're responding like that, like your father said, then that becomes a P2 response in your A3. What Shalina is saying is, instead of giving a P2 response, she said, please, can you move aside? So she used her A. Her father would have not done that. But she reviewed and said, I don't want to respond like a P2. I'm going to create my own storehouse of adult responses.
So, ma'am, I have a very important question here. Ma'am, I have noticed of late girls are becoming very aggressive, even like little girls, more aggressive than boys. It's as if the DNA, because we've been so suppressed all, centuries. Now, even little girls, like my daughter is 4 now, 2, 3 years old, also she wanted to be more aggressive than mine. I have twins, one boy, one girl. And I've noticed that my boy sometimes still is more submissive than her. And I've noticed this with other girls also. Younger children are suddenly becoming girls more aggressive than boys. So, is it a DNA thing or is it something?
Possible? Okay. Is it possible that you are wanting your daughter to become more aggressive? That she should take charge of her life and that she should not be submissive with boys? She should be able to speak up. Are your thoughts changing?
Ma'am, they've always been like this.
Okay. So if your thoughts are changing now the question is that, was this encouraged by your parents to be assertive? Or are you encouraging your child to be more assertive and aggressive? Or did your mom say this to you, but you could not do it, but the command and slogan is still stored in you?
I think the society, ma'am, for example, from the time of Me Too movement and all these things, it is changing a lot. Like even the adult women are trying to be more aggressive than before.
Correct. So
it may be part of fighting for the rights. I don't know. But I see that change a lot in the last 15 years.
So what we have to understand is there are many slogans and commands that were not verbalized by your parents. Like, let's say your mother. Okay, like maybe she suffered in silence. You saw that suffering, and then when you grew up, your P2 had these messages which were non-verbal, that you should be assertive, you should speak up. I could not do it, but you should speak up. I could not take a stand, but you should take a stand. Okay.
Exactly.
So these are messages that you have gathered in your P2, right? Now, when you grow up, you have reviewed verbal and non-verbal messages. And then you have acted upon these non-verbal messages, and maybe your mother may even comment that beta mujhe aisa karna tha but I could never do it, but you are doing it very good. Okay, now you are also giving non-verbal messages to your child, and your child is acting upon these non-verbal messages early in life. Okay, because as kind of generations proceed, things happen earlier. So that is why we are seeing little children showing behaviors that our great grandmothers wanted to do, but they did not exhibit it. That doesn't mean that behavior is not there. There is a non-verbal command or slogan that also passes from generation to generation. Am I clear?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Also, could it be that in these young children, the most prominent is P3 because their A and their C is still developing? So P3 is what is most developed because that is all the parenting, the everyone's trying to guide them, advise them,
Correct.
and that's how.
Conditioning starts the day the child is conceived. है ना? So conditioning is going to, even the C develops, but the C is still is the feeling oriented child, not the acting oriented child. है ना? वो feeling oriented है. तो इसलिए शायद वो हमें दिख नहीं रहा. But these things are visible to you if you are very perceptive to what children do and say. Okay? Good. Everybody's understanding. Now a tiger is prowling around. What will you do? What is the message you are getting from your P2, which you have reviewed?
Run.
Run. What else? Climb a tree. Climb a
Hide
tree.
yourself.
Run. Hide.
Free, less
Hide somewhere.
Hide.
Don't
Protect
make a noise.
yourself.
Don't make a noise.
Why did you go there? Why did you go there? What, like,
Why did you go there? You're not supposed to go there. Don't go to places where there is threat. So all these messages are all E2 messages stored in our A3. Our A3 is like our guide. It's like a torch. So that torch will shine once you have reviewed what commands and slogans you are going to keep in your adult, which is
Like light a
like
fire.
a daily kind of reckoner. Yeah, tell me.
Light a fire.
Light a fire. Yeah, see, good message from P2 to you. Okay. Loss of someone. What is the A3 going to do? An A3, huh? Adult.
Okay.
Now, this is a very tricky thing because our P2 has possibly not taught us how to cope with loss. They have coped with loss in a certain way. Now, I want you all to just pay attention. In your life, when there has been a loss of someone, either by death or by accident or just somebody going away from your life, how have you coped? And how do you think your parent has demonstrated how they coped?
By focusing on career or whatever, then it is easy for us to forget. Sometimes if a child baby comes into the family, then they forget very easily if an adult is passed away.
Okay, so
those are the things I have observed. Those are the things I have observed.
Is
Engage your mind to something else there.
So is that something demonstrated to you and you have reviewed it and stored it in your A3?
I observed it.
You observed it, correct. You observed it, yes.
They never talk about it. They don't want you to feel your emotions. Just they just want you to move on. Time will heal.
Correct.
मैम भगवान की मर्जी है, ये होता है, मतलब इट्स अ पार्ट ऑफ लाइफ.
Like
So
जो आया है उसको जाना ही है.
Correct. So these are all P2 to A3 messages. We've all reviewed these messages a million times. And so we have stored it in our A3. Okay. Now everybody understood how P2 fits into A3. Okay. Now let's go to C. Now let's
Ma'am, what about crying? If say the child sees that the parent has immediately started crying, so where does that response come in?
So if you have can you reviewed it, It comes from the C3 of the P2. The
C3 of
crying
the P2.
response comes from the C3.
Right.
Because when I
Yes,
was a
got it.
child, I recall my parent behaving like a child.
Yes.
Comes from the C3.
Yes.
Now let us look at the C, the C2. Okay. Now this is a very interesting ego state. Now in this, you have the P1, A1, C1. Okay. Now the fantasized version, now what is the magical parent? In my C. Now we're talking about the child ego state, okay? Divided into 3. Now the magical parent, the P in my C2, the P1 in my C2, the fantasized version of the parent is stored here. This can be far more threatening than it is. The parent could be a fairy godmother, ogre, or pig parent. These are all words that are used, okay? Now, just for a second, I want you all to think. Now, the C egos, the child ego state is, my child ego state is consisting of all that I have learned when I was less than the age of 6. Again, I'm repeating. My child ego state or my felt ego state consists of all that I have learned from my PACs developed, from all that I have learned when I was less than 6 years old. That means my C2 is my ego state less than the age of 6. That is why this magical parent is the fantasized version of the parent which I have stored. Now, for a second, go back in time, close your eyes and think, when you were a little child, how did your parent appear to you? Was she like a like a fairy godmother? You know, you would say, "Mujhe ye chahiye," and mommy would give it to me. Or she sounded like a witch. You know, like the CP in the P1 will be like a witch, all the time shouting at you, yelling at you, screaming at you, finding faults with you. Or the pig parent, like my father, would be like a big parent, always sulking and always sitting quietly and, not, like the negative father. Or the ogre. I mean, how, if you look at the fairy tales that you would be reading and identifying your parent with one of them, one of the characters. Anybody here?
So
Did you
my mom was the yelling one, and the father was the one that you described, big one, the silent one.
So the yelling one. So can you give some fairy tale character to this yelling mother? How would she appear to you? Like a witch, like a stepmother?
Yeah.
Okay, like a stepmother. So now the magical, because it's a magical parent, not a real parent, it's a fantasized version. The fantasized version that I have of my parent, that is stored here. कई लोग मुझे कहते हैं ना कि मैम मेरी बचपन में मेरी मम्मी ऐसी थी, शी वाज लाइक अ विच. मैम अभी तो वो बहुत अच्छी है. How she became अच्छी? Because you reviewed. Okay, but the child ego state still has that stored fantasized version of the parent. Got it? Now,
Ma'am, I was like, when I closed my eyes, I was feeling her like a master and I was a slave.
Very, very, very good, Radhika. So now you see, how did your mother appear to you like a master? And you were a slave.
She tells me to do things I have to do. She's master and I'm a slave.
So the 6-year-old child or a 5-year-old child, you, Radhika, 5-year-old Radhika, when 5-year-old Radhika has to speak about the mother, it will be very different than the 50-year-old Radhika will speak. Got the idea? So the 6-year-old Radhika sees the parent like a slave, like a master, and herself like a slave. This is the magical parent that all of us have stored inside us. Like for me, like my dad was like Santa Claus. Okay, he was like Santa Claus. I would say anything to him, it would come true. He was like a wish fulfilling Santa Claus. Now, suppose this Santa Claus, as I grew up, ceases to be Santa Claus. Then what happens to my mind, my little mind in me? It says, oh God, Papa seems to have changed. Correct? And I want to hold on to that image of Santa Claus only. I don't want to see Papa as a person. I want to see Papa as Santa Claus. Can you see how much of conflict this can create in our minds? You think it can create conflict?
But ma'am, sometimes when the child is small, the dad will behave like a Santa Claus. But when the child grows up, he may not want to fulfill all your wishes.
Correct, Shalina, but I am carrying that version of Papa, no? I am carrying that image of Papa as Santa Claus. So when I grow up and Papa tries to be CP and teach me a lesson, I don't like Papa. And I create distance from him because I'm not able to develop my A3. Now you're getting the idea, Shalina, how the mind works?
Wow. How
Because
does it impact your A3, ma'am?
because as I grow up, my A3 will start to develop, right? By reading books, by gaining knowledge, by understanding the actual reality of life. Maybe my papa is going through a tough time and he cannot be Santa Claus now when I'm 20, but I'm carrying the image of Santa Claus for my father. So when he refuses to give me something, I wonder, I think papa has changed. Does not love me now as much as he used to love me before. Before he used to do I would say anything, the most impossible thing, and Papa would give it to me. And now he cannot. Now he doesn't want to, not that he cannot. When somebody will explain, कि नहीं पापा को ना business में भी नुकसान हुआ है. So I'll say, so what? Papa तो कहीं से मेरे, for me, my papa is magical, no? My papa is magical for me. वो कैसे नहीं ला सकते? वो ला सकते हैं.
So
You
this
will
is
get it.
A3. So this is A3 of the child which gets hampered.
Correct. Yeah. So obviously, na, the A3 of the child is now not a child. The child is 20 years old now. And the A3 is not yet developed. I'm still functioning from the P1. Got it? I'm still.
So magical doesn't necessarily have to be positive and admiring.
Better, see, I've written no fairy godmother, augur, pig parent.
Okay.
The magical P is negative and positive.
और मैम जैसे बचपन में जैसे आई यूज टू सी माय फादर एज ए कि मेरे को कुछ नहीं होने देंगे, आई फील वेरी प्रोटेक्टेड, और आज भी मुझे वही लगता है, तो कोई चेंज नहीं हुआ, तो उसमें क्या होएगा?
इट इज पॉसिबल दैट जैसे तुम बड़ी हुई ना, तुमने रिव्यू किया कि पापा के साथ में बैठती हूँ तो मुझे हमेशा अच्छा लगता है, आई फील प्रोटेक्टेड. दिस प्रोटेक्टिवनेस दैट यू आर फीलिंग, करम, is actually coming from your child ego state. Okay,
So I have to review now, huh?
As you can see the C1, I'll take this as an example to explain the C1. Okay, Karam? Baba, you raised your hand.
Yes, and what if a parent had two modes? Like my father, for example, in his good mode, he was like a Willy Wonka, and in his bad mode, he was like an ogre.
So you have both the images. You have both the images. So as you started growing up, what is the image that you seem to have carried forward?
तो मैम मुझे चेंज करनी चाहिए अभी दोबारा रिव्यू?
Wait करो, I'll explain to you. Baba?
Okay. Both, because I still remember all the good times when he was giving us all the he came from exhibitions and he brought all the new developments and new scientific research, and that really like affected my little professor's kind of mode. But the anger, I also feel in me a lot of anger from my father transferred into my personality.
Correct. So now this fantasized version of your father as an ogre, that is something that you easily revert to. Because that is very, very prominent. Because you
Right.
don't want your father to be the ogre. You want your father always to be this, magical parent who always brought nice goodies. So somehow the anger, the feeling, the felt part is something that you need to work with, because that is creating problems. So whatever is
Right.
creating problem is what you have actually identified.
Okay.
That is coming from your magical parent, your fantasized parent. Both are not real.
Right.
Both are equally not real, okay? But in your mind, Papa is Santa Claus and Papa is ogre. How can he be two things at one time? So let me think of him only as kind of Santa Claus. But the emotions of the ogre is something that are also there. So that is creating problems for you. So you'll have to work with that.
I see. Thank you.
That's what you have to work. So now, Karam, I'll take that example, okay? Now, the little professor. So Baba said something very nice, that when Papa came home with all these wonderful discoveries and inventions that he used to discuss, Baba, as a little child, developed intuitive strategies to solve problems. Oh, this can be solved like this. Oh, this can be solved like that. So her little professor was also developing at that same time. Okay, and we all go to that little professor many times in crisis. Just think for a few seconds. Every time in crisis, what is the solution that immediately comes to you intuitively, spontaneously? That is coming from your little professor, not from your adult, not from your A3. It is coming from your A1, friends. Can you tell me any spontaneous strategy that comes to you and you said, and somebody will say, wow, yeah, badi chant hai, badi smart hai tu to. When somebody says that to you, that strategy has come from your little professor.
This is also under 6-year-old?
Yes. C is always under the age of 6. Think of some very smart, clever, street smart strategy that you have used.
We would recite poems, and people would praise us for that.
Yes, that's a strategy. You may not think it's a strategy as a little child, okay, to gain attention. But as you grow up, and if you're doing the same thing, then that is coming from your little professor. You are 40, but you are using the strategy which you used when you were less than 6, but you are using it when you are 40. That means your little professor is actually making you do this. They are not dead. Huh? All these ego states are functioning. Okay. So anything else like a little professor thing that you do, which immediately you get what you want?
Ma'am, throwing a little tantrum, will that be little professor or
Throwing
rebellious child?
a pretense is a little professor. Pretense. Are if I do this, no, like I'm going to the mall with mummy, and if I behave little badly, I think mummy will give me a chocolate. So I'm pretending. I'm using a strategy. I'm not actually having a temper tantrum.
It's a manipulative behavior.
Yes, correct. It's a manipulative, smart behavior.
Manipulative.
So what if someone uses emotional blackmail?
That is also
Okay.
That is also little professor. Because the person is quite aware of the consequences of his behavior. The little professor is very aware of the consequences of that behavior. I'll get what I want.
या मैं
Sometimes it's not get.
जैसे किसी को बैकफुट पे करना है तो थोड़ा लाउडली या वैसे बोलने लग जाओ.
करेक्ट। तो ये सब चीजें व्हेन यू वर लेस देन 6 ये आपने ऑब्जर्व की है। लेस देन द एज ऑफ 6 आपने सीख लिया।
जबरदस्ती अथॉरिटी दिखाना।
हाँ, ये आपने सीख लिया। अब आप जब बड़े हो गए, व्हेन यू बिकम बिग, तो आप वही स्ट्रैटेजी यूज कर रहे हैं, जो शायद actually it is not right, because you don't need to use that strategy now. But there are many adults, so-called adults, who use little professor techniques. You can use the A3, okay, the mature adult, but there are many people who are grown up, but they use the little professor techniques.
Like, for
Also,
example,
like when
I become pleasing, like, you just start pleasing the other, like a very, like, to appraise them
To solve
because I
problem.
want something.
हाँ, to solve the problem.
To solve the problem, yeah.
कुछ ऐसा करते हैं जो बचपन में आपने
बचपन में
देखा था या आपने किया था, तो इसका मतलब है कि यू आर यूजिंग द लिटिल प्रोफेसर स्ट्रैटेजीज।
Right.
स्ट्रैटेजीज है, इंट्यूटिव स्ट्रैटेजीज है।
Ma'am, can it be like am I audible, ma'am?
Yes, yes.
Ma'am, can it be like teaching few things to my children by creating a story around it? उनसे कुछ मनवाना है, then creating a story कि हाँ, मतलब I would always do it with my children actually कि एक story बनाने की हाँ, this is how it will help you, और ये this is good for you, and creating a story around it.
That is, you're trying to guide your child.
Okay.
That is coming from the adult. You know which story to tell, है ना? You have planned, no, कि मैं ये story बोलूंगी, इस तरह के characters use करूंगी. Little professor is more spontaneous.
Okay.
Suddenly you come up with a strategy. You will not even come to know it is the little professor till you reflect. When you start reflecting, then you may realize, oh my God, this is something I would do when I was a child. And I'm doing it now. That awareness can even come later.
मैम एक इंसिडेंट याद आ रहा है मुझे। हमारा इनर चाइल्ड वाला प्रोग्राम था पुष्कर में, और एक फैमिली जा रही थी, दो कपल और एक छोटा बच्चा था। तो वो बच्चा बोला, आप ना लड़ने मत लग जाना आपस में। And you said this is the little professor speaking.
The little professor speaking. Okay. The child does not know the impact of this. But he must have watched कि जब कोई ऐसे बोलता है तो मम्मी पापा लड़ना बंद कर लेते हैं. Like the little professor saying, मम्मी पापा अभी आपने बहुत ही फाइट कर लिया, अभी now say sorry. So it isn't the child is using some strategy that the child is learning in school to say sorry. Correct?
So in my office, I've realized what I do is whenever I'm in a meeting, right, and I want to be taken seriously with some leadership and all, I use a different tone, and it somehow comes naturally to me. I use a
Very
different
good.
tone to be taken seriously.
So that is your little professor.
Yeah.
That's your little professor intuitive strategy to solve a problem. Now you're realizing that, see, I do this.
Yeah.
Okay. And now we come to the C1, which is the somatic child. Now, Karam ने जो एग्जाम्पल दिया था अभी, Karam, can you repeat the example? पापा के पास बैठ के आपको अच्छा लगता है वो वाला एग्जाम्पल?
जी जी, मतलब when I was young, I used to feel very protected around him, and अभी भी सेम है कि he will protect me, कुछ भी हो जाएगा, he will always protect me.
Correct.
And I will always be safe with him.
Correct. So this is your somatic child, Karam. In childhood, this is your feeling that you had with your father.
Yeah.
So today, when you sit with your father, you actually become that little child. Not that it's unconsciously, it's that little somatic child, that C1, that feels the protection. Not the adult Karam. Adult Karam can definitely protect herself. But when you sit with Papa, or when you think about Papa, or when you think that Papa is coming home, or you just whatever, you suddenly feel protected.
Protected.
That feeling of protection is given to you, adult Karam, by the child Karam.
Okay.
Okay, and that is why I mentioned here the Russian doll metaphor. Remember the Russian dolls, ek ke andar ek wo gudiya, hai na? So the somatic child is that tiny little child inside all of us. एकदम जो छोटू सा बेबी होता है ना उसमें, that is the somatic child. Okay, now I have grown up, एक के ऊपर एक बड़े बड़े dolls हमने डाल दिए, but suddenly when Karam sits next to the father, the other big dolls are not feeling anything, but that little tiny doll starts feeling. Because the somatic child is the most important child, friends. All our psychosomatic problems, depression, anxiety, nervousness, all this comes from our somatic child. That means this somatic child is storing feelings. Feeling of being rejected, neglected, abandoned, unloved, unworthy. All these emotions come from that somatic child. And that is why if you were abused less than the age of 6 or 7, physically, sexually, emotionally, socially, abandoned, kept away, then this somatic child is damaged. All healing, Reiki ho, pranic healing ho, past life regression ho, any healing is to heal the somatic child. Once the somatic child is healed, all healing does not happen with the parent or the adult. Adult will review, adult will feel better, adult will, help us in so many different ways, but all healing takes place in the somatic child. Got the idea? How healing takes place? It's a somatic child that is being healed.
तो मैम सबसे ज्यादा
Ma'am,
हमें
I want
बच्चे
to
पे
share
1 to
something.
6 years ध्यान देना चाहिए.
Hold on, I'll move here because वो charging खत्म हो गई है. हाँ, बोलो.
मैम आई एम आस्किंग कि तो हमें सबसे ज्यादा एज अ मदर या एज अ एडल्ट जो ये अप टू 6 इयर्स के बच्चे की नरिशमेंट पे ध्यान देना चाहिए.
करेक्ट. हमेशा कहा गया है, I think there is a very famous saying which was said by possibly Jesus, that give me a child till the age of 6 and I will give you an adult who is mature. So 6 saal, less than the age of 6, all our problems either are created or they are destroyed. You can make yourself or break yourself till the age of 6.
Ma'am, I want to share something. Now when through the session, when you were talking about it, I viewed my mother as Cinderella. Okay, and Cinderella finally won the prince. So she was perceived as somebody who finally gets everything if you behave like Cinderella.
Correct.
So
the magical mummy is Cinderella.
Magical mummy is Cinderella. But now, when I review it as an adult, that's not the case. It's not right to behave like Cinderella.
Correct. So now when you review it, then you will change.
So my somatic child has been Cinderella stuck at the Cinderella phase, being people pleasing also at times.
So which is that child, the compliant child? In the adapted child, we had CC and RC.
Yeah.
So the CC, the compliant, all the time saying, yes, okay, mama, as you say, obedient. ये बच्चा जो है, उसको बड़ा होना है. All healing is only at that somatic child level. If your somatic child gets healed, then everything else, the growth can happen of that child.
So somewhere stuck in that victimhood and Cinderella syndrome.
That's right, the Cinderella syndrome. Yeah.
I was about to say the same Cinderella, but my version of Cinderella is different. The pre-wali Cinderella, where she's victimized and dukhi hai बेचारी, that
हाँ
wali
वही
Cinderella.
वही
हाँ, तो
वही
शलीना वही कह रही है, उसकी भी वही है।
अच्छा
वही सोमैटिक चाइल्ड ने मॉम को सिंड्रेला फैंटेसाइज किया है बिकॉज द सिंड्रेला फाइनली गेट्स एवरीथिंग सो सो
तभी
फैंटेसी
तभी तो शलीना एंड हीना, कई लोग ये कहते हैं, अरे मेरी मम्मी स्ट्रिक्ट थी बट वो अच्छा था मेरे लिए, ऐसे बोलते हैं। अरे वो स्ट्रिक्ट थी ना, इसलिए आई एम वेयर आई एम टुडे, but they don't realize the damage that poor somatic child has had to bear. Okay, so understood now how the personality, हम सब की जो पर्सनालिटी है वो PAC में कैसे डिवाइडेड होती है, and how all healing is at the somatic level, because the child ego state which we just saw last is where our problems lie. Our commands and slogans and all that we can still understand and we can still change them. But that poor little child less than the age of 6, that's the helpless child. All work that we do with the inner child is all with the child ego state. The magical parent, so all kinds of stories, and then the little professor, and then of course the somatic child. So we have so many somatic related processing work that needs to be done, right? All that is happening at the somatic child level. So as healers, as doctors, as professionals, as parents, we will have to be careful how we are dealing with small children, and also how we are dealing with our child. So now that the questionnaire has been shared with everybody, do it, okay? And maybe today is what? Thursday. So next week, Wednesday, we can meet. And all of you, now please don't send these 4 sheets to me. I mean, on the group. Huh? Just write the scores of all the ego states and send it. Or that bar chart that has been given to you, fill it, click a picture and send that picture of the bar chart. That will help. Okay? So let us study the bar chart on the WhatsApp study group on Wednesday. Okay? Okay then.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so